Okay, so here we are. As you can see, I've been playing around quite a bit, and I've learned a lot. So the first thing I have learned is that it works much better if after the wax layer has dried, 24 to 48 hours, I would apply a layer of fluid matte medium. This happens to be made by Golden. It's the only one I'm familiar with. I'm sure there's others out there that might work just as well. Again, Golden Fluid Matte Medium. Now, you can use this straight out of the bottle, which is what I recommend for this first coat. If you need to mix a little bit of water in with it to make it a little more easier to put on, that's fine, because if you don't keep the lid on this, it will kind of thicken up. So if it is a little on the thick side and you need to add a little water to it, you may do that. Many times when I'm using it as a, I'll call it a protective layer against some of the washes that I might have done that I don't want to lose, I will use a ratio of 1 part water to 1 part fluid matte medium, and I've never had a problem with that either. But I just think using it straight out of the bottle gives you maximum sealant here, which is going to make our life a lot easier for 2 reasons. The first reason being it takes that waxy feel away. And what I found is that when I'm using my acrylics, especially if I mix them with a little bit of water to get more of a transparent feeling. And of course, you don't have to use water. You can go back to your fluid matte medium. But in this case, my point is, with that waxiness being gone, this goes on and sticks on a lot better, in my humble opinion. Because I do tend to work in transparent layers, which is definitely what you want to do here, because we want our lovely background to show through. All right? So that's the first thing. I think your paint will adhere better, and you can use water or the matte medium, whatever you will like. The second thing is, and I guess maybe it should have been the first thing, but when you're applying your sketch, as I showed you in one of the videos, I found that when I apply the sketch directly to the wax without putting that barrier down of the matte medium, it's very difficult to get these lines, these white lines, to come off. Even with an eraser, even with using something to scrub with, they just don't want to budge. In my experimentation, what I found out is if this is sealed first, and that's what I'm going to call it, sealing it, with the matte medium, no matter what I do, I can erase it or I can wipe it away with water. It just seems to work so much better for me. And the lines then, as I go in, because you can, it's probably difficult for you to see, but I can still see a little bit of the chalk marks, and I'm going to have to work a little harder than I would like to get rid of those, because I applied this directly onto the wax. I don't know if the wax absorbs some of the chalk, don't really know what's happening. And again, though, as I said in the video where you put your sketch on, don't press hard, because you will go, because this has got some thickness to it, and also depending upon how thick you applied it. So you don't want to score into that unless that's, what you're going for. But I doubt that it is when you're applying your sketch. Okay, so now the next thing I learned was to work in transparent layers. Okay, because trying to work the traditional way that I usually work doesn't always require transparency, and a lot of times I'll be using a more opaque paint, especially when it comes to highlights and really dark areas. After all, white tends to be a more opaque paint. So I had to kind of twist my thinking around here a little bit and go into this as, okay, the base coat, if you will, is already been applied, because this whole little 10 by 10 is going to be elephant. It's going to be filled with elephant. You know, you can see the photograph, right? So my point being is, normally when I paint something like this, a lot of times I'll even go in and the subject matter I'll paint white, just so that I have no interference with background colors that I might have done for the background. Well, in this case, the background, it's going to get confusing, I know. The background is the elephant. I want a lot of these neat textures and colors to show through, because I'm not going for the realism that I normally go with in the traditional sense. I'm doing something that's more representational, which gives me some freedom to really play with color. However, my brain still likes that that realism. So I do want this to look like an elephant. I just want to bring out some of these really neat textures and colors that you might not normally obviously see in your average elephant running down the street, right? Okay. All right.